Hey everyone. So we're thinking about the Magnificat this week, the song that Mary sings in Luke 1, which is just an incredible reminder of how political Advent is. Christmas is the coming of the Messiah. The Messiah means anointed one in Hebrew. It's a term applied to kings, right? David is the first Messiah, the first one to be anointed and given leadership over Israel, over the people of God. And it's not just a symbolic or theological office, messiahship. It's a political one, right? Where the expectations of all the prophets are of a political leader, a king, someone to come and liberate Israel from the oppression that they suffer under the heels of the various empires that have occupied the land of Palestine. And so as Mary is singing this song, she's talking about how the lowly will be lifted up, how the rulers will be brought down, how the hungry will be filled and the rich sent away empty. So what does that mean? I feel like in the common Christian imagination, these things have been depoliticized, right? You don't really think about the poor as a class or as their economic situation being a central concern to the gospel. We kind of maybe allow it to mean that God cares about poor people. It's a sort of basic humanitarian sentiment. But what Mary is talking about is a radical reorganization of political power, where those who have power are brought down from their places and the lowly lifted up, the rich sent away with nothing at all, and the hungry filled. That's a radical vision. That's revolution. That's not just now everyone can sort of welcome Jesus into their hearts, right? That's not Mary's vision. That's not the vision of the prophets. And when Jesus comes and inaugurates his ministry with the Isaiah text, he says that he's come to liberate the captive and release the prisoner from prison, right? To heal the sick. All these things, what is he talking about if he's not talking about actual prisoners in prison, right? These are not just metaphors or analogies to spiritual conditions. These are political realities that Jesus has come into the world to transform. And we see this in such real and concrete ways, where Jesus himself is a prisoner, of course, incarcerated and executed at the hands of the state in Acts, right? So many of the early Christians are prisoners. And at one point in Acts, it says the Holy Spirit shook the foundations of the prison, and the doors were flung open, and all the prisoners go free. And this is an image of new creation, of the apocalyptic transformation of the world inaugurated by the Messiah, a work that Jesus begins, but then continues through us as the Spirit motivates us, right? As Jesus left, he says, I'm giving you my Spirit so that you'll do even greater things than I've done. So Christmas, right, in the Magnificat, as Mary is talking about the significance of Advent, is a highly political event. So if you're one who likes to keep politics separate from the Bible, you're going to have to find a different Bible, right? Because this is everywhere, over and over and over again. God is on the side of the oppressed, and not just because God's going to sort of be there spiritually and sort of give, oppressed people some more spiritual help. God is going to transform the political, material situations of oppressed people. And that's part of the work of the church. That looks like the abolition of prisons, right, which we see in Acts. It looks like the collective ownership, which we see in Acts 2, where nobody owns anything, but everyone has everything in common. It looks like a radical reorganization of political power. And so I just don't want us to lose that this Christmas season, right? It's not just this feel-good story about people needing a little bit of a better connection to God. People had a good connection to God, right? There was no deficiency there. God was present. God was speaking in people's lives. God was moving. But what needed to happen was a political revolution. And Jesus inaugurates that, right? Jesus begins it, but then he leaves us his Spirit so that we can move that forward and continue to do that work. So this Christmas season, as we're thinking about what Christmas means to us, listen to Mary's song. Listen to the things she says about power and wealth. Jesus didn't just minister to the poor, the oppressed, the sick, the prisoner. Jesus was these people, right? Jesus was homeless. The Son of Man has no place to lay his head. Jesus was a prisoner. Jesus was executed. He reminds us of this in Matthew 25, right? So these things are absolutely central. When he begins his ministry, he uses a text that foregrounds oppressed peoples and says that his ministry is all about good news to these people. And good news to the poor and powerless is bad news to the rich and powerful. So where do you stand? What sense do you make of the Christian message, and how do you integrate these radical politics that come through the messaging of people like Mary and Isaiah and Jesus himself? Reflect on that this week. God bless you.